So as you already know, Samsung uses two different chipsets in their phones. One is their own in-house Exynos chip and the other one is from Qualcomm, the Snapdragon chip. It depends on the region which chipset you'll end up getting. Historically, we've seen the Exynos chipsets tend to perform better than Snapdragon, except in the GPU department, where the Adreno GPU from Qualcomm is way better than the Mali from Exynos. But what we're seeing from a couple of years is that the Snapdragon SoC is taking a lead, not only in GPU but also in the CPU department as well. It's been confirmed in many of the speed tests. In particular, the speed test between the Exynos and Snapdragon variants of the Galaxy Note 10 Plus. As you can see, the Snapdragon variant beats the Exynos by a massive 20 seconds. What was surprising to me was that in the CPU test, an area where the Exynos tend to perform better than Snapdragon, the Exynos still fall behind by almost 4 seconds. And it's been happening for a couple of years. You might be wondering why. Well, let me explain. I'm not going to talk about the difference in speed and GPU because we all know the Mali GPU from Exynos is inferior to the Adreno. No arguments there. But let's take a look at why Exynos is falling behind in the CPU tests as well. The answer lies in the architecture of both of the CPUs. Both the Exynos and Snapdragon uses the same ARMS architecture but uses different CPU configuration. Here's the CPU configuration of the Snapdragon 855 and Exynos 9825 side by side. The Snapdragon 855 features 4 Cortex-A76, which are accompanied by 4 Cortex-A55 cores. Exynos 9825 features 2 custom CPU and 2 Cortex-A75 cores, accompanied by 4 Cortex-A55 cores. Pay close attention to the Cortex-A76 and A75 because the rest is the same. Here's the performance difference between the A75 and 76. As you can see, there's a difference of 35% in performance. The Exynos 9825 still uses the inferior A75, of course. It uses the A75 inches combination with the custom M4 cores. M4 cores are really powerful, but still, in combination with the A75, it's not as good as the A76 that Qualcomm uses, and the test proves it. But thankfully though, it looks like all of these will change with the upcoming Galaxy S11. You see, Ice Universe is saying that the Exynos 9830, or whatever the name is going to be, will use the Cortex-A77, the same one that Qualcomm is going to use for the Snapdragon 865. So that means the CPU architecture of both the Exynos 9830 and 865 will be identical. So the Exynos 9830 should perform equal to the Snapdragon 865. Also, Ice Universe said the Samsung has fired its entire Austin CPU team in favor of ARMS CPU architecture. In 2010, Samsung founded a design center in Austin called Samsung Austin R&D Center, where they hired many ex-AMD, ex-Intel, ex-ARM, and various other industry veterans. So firing them would mean Samsung will no longer use custom M4 cores and will directly use ARMS architecture, just like Qualcomm does with their Snapdragon chipsets. So if this is indeed true, because we can't take Ice's words for granted until we hear from Samsung themselves, nonetheless, if this is true, then there won't be any performance difference between the Exynos and Snapdragon variants, which is good for us consumers. Now, the only thing Samsung needs to do is to get rid of the Mali GPU, which will happen, by the way, but not with the Galaxy S11. Samsung and AMD made a deal already, but Exynos chips with AMD's Radeon graphics will only come to fruition in 2021. In any case, do let me know what do you think about this and consider subscribing for all the latest updates on the Galaxy S11, and as always, I'll see you tomorrow. Peace out.